because the more your optimism you have, not only it impacts your life, impacts the way you think, your body responds. There are studies which shows that if you are a positive thinker, a lot of diseases will come and just go, and you don't even know about it. And it impacts the life around the people who are around you, because when you're optimistic, people say, yes, we can do it. But if you are pessimist, then you know how it happens. The negative energy drains you down much faster, I would say 2 or 3 times, versus the positive energy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Eternal Optimist Podcast. And I am your host, Matt Drinkon. And today our guest is Mr. Saurabh Gupta. And Saurabh comes at us today live from Orlando, Florida. And we're going to have deep discussion today. It's going to go a number of directions. We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to talk about things we've learned. We're going to talk about just life and things that are going on in our lives. We might even get to the book that Saurabh is writing right now. Who knows where we might go today? But one thing is for sure, we're going to go deep and it's going to be real. So Saurabh, as we dive in today, first of all, we met through a mutual friend, Rena Friedman-Watts from the Better Call Daddy podcast. Shout out to Rena. We love her.
Yeah, I love you.
Yes. Shout out to Rena first. Right before we turned on the recording, you shared some wisdom with me. I thought it was wisdom. And I'm going to start our recording today with a quote that I just got from you a second ago. And the quote is, when you're not prepared, you get a true reflection of who someone is. And yes, we don't have a script for this show today. We're just gonna riff it and see what magic unfolds.
Oh, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, Saurabh, can you give us a little context? Mm-hmm. Where do you live? What does your career look like? A little bit about your family. Just give us some context of who Saurabh Gupta is, the man, as we dive into our conversation.
Definitely. So, Saurabh Gupta, currently based out of Orlando, Florida. Previously, I was in New Jersey. And before that, I was in India. So, I'm Indian native, moved to United States close to 10 years back from my job. So I work in Microsoft, and I got one opportunity. So I moved from Microsoft India to Microsoft United States in New Jersey. And I work as a cybersecurity architect and strategy lead for the Americas time zone at this point. So that is one of the things from the career perspective. I do a lot of other things which keeps me busy. So I'm an active podcaster. Let's Talk, as on TikTok. Let's Talk podcast is my podcast, which is running for 2 years now. I do also a bit of, I would say, hiking. I'm a marathon runner, musician as well. So I'm a part of an Indian band here in Orlando, a professional band. So we do some gigs as well. Wow. And apart from that, I'm an avid reader, because that opens a lot of, I would say, hidden doors in different parts of your brain and expand your perspective. So that is around me. I have a beautiful wife and 2 kids, 8 and 3 respectively, son and daughter. And I'm just enjoying the life, taking one at a time.
Wow. Okay. Wow. There's so many places we can go. Let's just suffice it to say, you don't want to mess with Saurabh digitally online, because he is a cybersecurity expert. He's the strategist and a lead. So don't mess with him, because he can go down the rabbit hole and get you. I'm just kidding, but just watch out. So let's talk first about some challenges. So Saurabh, if you look at just your life, and we're going to just kind of tell the story first of some of the biggest challenges that you've endured or overcome. What's something from your past that was just really challenging for you that you can share with us today?
Definitely. I have a couple of stories. And so just to get started, more than 34, 35 years, I would say 32, 33, whatever years of life. I was in India. I'm blessed with a great life, what my parents has provided, education, everything, no regrets from that perspective. Obviously, there are challenges for every individual, big and small. But let me give you a perspective of some of the pivotal part which really transformed me, not in a small way, but a big way. So this is exactly happens when I was in the United States around 2016 timeframe.
Okay.
And in 2016, I prior to that, I have a bit of a sedentary lifestyle, no exercise. I used to do a bit of the kind of weightlifting or a bit of a running back, long back, maybe a couple of years, but then I just left for 6, 7 years. In 2016, my friend called, we were having just a normal chit chat, and I was in New Jersey. So my friend called and he said that they are planning for a hike. I said,
Huh.
where? They said, it's Mount Whitney, which is one of the highest hiking in terms of the mountain for the lower 48 states.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And obviously, my friends were relatively more fitter and they do a lot of workouts. So they were like already up to it. And they asked me, not even asked, they just mentioned. And I was like, okay, what about me if I can be a part of it? So my friend said that, okay, it's not just a regular walk hike. It's a 14,500 feet above sea level, and there may be some oxygen issues for some people, and it's not like you really have to prepare for that. I said
I mean,
I'm up
what is
for it.
that really? Like an oxygen issue? For those of us who are hearing this, like trying to
Yes.
get back into it, what do you mean by oxygen issues?
Okay, so as you go above the altitude, right? So oxygen level depletes. And again, it's not that like you're talking about Mount Everest or other mountains, which are like, I think, 27, 28,000 feet. It's
Mhm.
half of that, but still, because as a human being, we are not used to going to high altitude until unless we are not living there, we do have acute mountain sickness, what we
Ooh.
say AMS, which kicks in different forms, which means that maybe you have headache, some people have nausea, vomiting, and a lot of other things which comes depends on your physical conditions. Which also lack of oxygen is also part of it. It's not like you cannot breathe, you can, but just think about just walking, strolling in your neighborhood versus every 5 or 6 step you are taking a deep breath like that just to
Wow.
get more oxygen to yeah, so that is something which is happening. So
Okay. So that's context for what it's like. Okay. Please
yes,
continue.
so yeah, and then obviously he mentioned, I said I'm prepared, so he said that okay, I'm not, just be frank, I'm not very confident that you can do that with your current lifestyle. Why don't you just start running and have some stamina building? That's how I was introduced to running. So I did some for next 6 months.
Okay.
I did running, and then I went up to Mount Whitney. That was a strenuous hike, and I did a lot of mistakes over there as well, which means that I drank a lot of water, and after a certain period or tree line, there is no water. So you have to whatever you have to conserve. So out of I was out of water
Oh.
uh, and for 5 hours.
Ooh.
And so,
Ooh.
and
Ooh.
obviously
Wow.
at that time, your friends or your the co-hikers, water is a precious commodity. So they gave me maybe a bit of a lemonade and all. But long story short, that was the first time in my life I was hungry and thirsty for 5, 6 hours, which being a privilege in that way, I never faced in my life that I was hungry and thirsty. And that gave me a lot of perspective, a sense of gratitude, and a
Okay.
sense of respect to what we generally take things for granted. And after that, once I came back, I knew Saurabh Gupta was born, who was more filled with gratitude of what he has, not like obviously he's aspiring for, and the guy, the same guy who used to eat whatever he wants and then throw stuff whatever's remaining. Now he becomes much more aware of take only what you can eat
Okay.
and more respect towards food and water. So that is one thing. I can go on and on, but I'll take a pause. That is one of my transformative as a new person was born and expand my perspective toward life in general.
Yeah, I love that. I love that from the story that I just heard, the takeaway from it, the learning lesson is gratitude. It's not taking things for granted, and it took that experience to get you really into that frame of mind. And I'm happy for you that you found that. And so many of us, we come to this place of gratitude through our own trials and tribulations or whatever it is, and then we realize we have been taking things for granted. So great learning lesson to start. And I'm curious, by the way, when you're hiking 14,500, like you're at that elevation, what are you carrying on your back? You carrying a backpack? You've got like walking sticks? Like, what's the gear look like, and how much does that weigh?
Well, it was so that is also one of the another layer. We couldn't get the backpack, which means that you stay overnight. We have to
Okay.
cover. It was around, and again, I have to confirm, but it was more than 20 miles up and down,
Woo,
and
man.
it was like we have to complete in 24 hours because we couldn't get the backpack permit. It's a permit based, so you have to complete in 24 hours, so which means that obviously we are not carrying the heavy stuff, but it was strenuous in the way that you do not get much rest. You just have to keep on walking.
Yep.
And the backpack has quite essentials bars, obviously the water bladder, which we were drinking through the water pipe, and some general stuff. So, and then your hiking stick and your other stuff like caps and all. So it was not heavy, but the thing is, it's just the analogy, right? You can hold a glass of water for 10 seconds, but the same glass of water becomes heavier and heavier as you
That's
just
right.
keep holding it, maybe for half an hour. So it's just the same concept.
Yeah. And you get to do it for 20 miles while
Yes.
you're out of water. Uh, if
Yeah.
anything comes from it, you will not be out of water again.
Yeah, and that was my first hike, which I'm doing like on the one of the highest mountains. So you can imagine, and I was hallucinating because of you have a lot of other things happens on the higher altitude, and I was
Wow.
literally crying for a couple of minutes when I reached to the top because I
Oh,
made it. But then my friend jokingly mentioned when I was like, just kind of calm down, just stop crying because you have to go down as well. I said, "Oh my god!"
yeah.
So yeah, those were some of the moments.
And I've heard from hikers who go to high altitude that, once you get there, you have this euphoric moment of getting there. But I've heard there's actually, in many cases, more danger on the way down because you might be a little bit tired and you might have to be really careful with your steps. Did you find that? Can you compare the difference between going up and going down? What were the differences?
Apart from the experience, you're right. It's also about the muscles which are involved in your body.
Okay.
So going up has a different set of muscles. Going down, a lot of hammering on your knees because there are a lot of stairs as well, not like just a regular slope or inclines. So that being said, yes, and there's obviously you are more prone to falling down,
Yeah.
or in our case, we have around 15 people, 10 made it to the top. While coming back, I think two were lost.
Oh,
And then they even called 911. Fortunately, the 911 call didn't go through, and they found the way out after a couple of hours. But
wow.
yeah, those are some of the horror stories. Sometimes you get lost, but if you are prepared well, the likelihood of having those would be less and less.
Yes. Well, so it's 2016. Prior to that, you've been a little sedentary, and your friend invites you but says you got to get in better shape. So you run for
Yes.
6 months, you get in shape. And I'm curious, do you have a history of just running headfirst into things that are incredibly challenging? Because this just sounds like a huge transformation and challenge. Why did you choose to do it in the first place?
So I would say it's a mixed feeling of if my friends, my and these are my college friends, right? If they
Okay.
can do, and they're saying that you are not fit enough, so I took it bit of an ego as well. I was like,
Yeah.
why? I'm fit. I mean, we are on the same age, so how come they say that you are not fit enough? So that basically one of the thing. But obviously, I have absolutely no idea how this hike would look like. I'm just fortunate that somehow my body uh, kind of supported me. There was a critical moment where you have switchbacks. If you don't know those different curves in hiking, which has a
Mhm.
very steep elevation game, and that is the place where most of the hikers turn back.
Ah,
I was fortunate enough that I was keep pushing it up, and I didn't have that vomiting. I have like headache. That is one of my way of having less oxygen or acute mountain sickness. But yeah, that coming back to your question, that was one of the thing is how they are saying that I cannot do it. And then once I started running, then I was feeling nice because the first mile I was gasping for breath. Subsequent days, it was happening in 3 miles, then 5 miles, then
okay.
6 miles. So, which means now I have my own journey. I'm learning about my body, and I'm also learning about those life lessons which everyone reads in their on the books, which say that you can do whatever you want. Now it's happening in those small version. Like now I can run 6 miles versus maybe 3 months back I was even gasping for breath for 1 mile. So I have now my own story, and I'm getting more excited, and it's a cascading and snowballing effect that okay, let me do more, let me do more, let me do more. I feel excited, I curse myself, why am I doing it when I get tired? But when I stop, everything cools down, I want more.
Nice. Ah, I love it. I love something that you shared just before 2016. You
Yeah.
mentioned that, let's see, I think you said that you were roughly 32 or 33 years of your
Mm,
first 32 years of your life lived in India. And
mm.
then you moved here to the United States about 10 years ago. So for someone who lived in India for 32 years, and then you made the move over. What was that like? Moving from the culture, the continent, just to a totally different continent culture. What was that experience like for you?
Actually, that's a very good question. And that is, everyone's has a different experience, but one common thing is element of surprise, element of being uncomfortable, nervousness, judgment.
Yeah.
For me, because I actively work for a couple of years with American clients, I had
Okay.
some information, right? It's not like I do not know the culture. But at the same time, when you start living in the United States, there's a different story. So, for example, let me just showcase one story. So,
Okay.
I came to New Jersey. I was living with some of my colleagues who were not married at the time, and
Okay.
my wife came down to the US after 3 months because she was working as well, and she has to do all the formalities in India.
Okay.
So, I went to I think it was Macy's only, I guess, if I recall. I went there and I asked about, do you have mufflers? And they were like, the guy who was standing, he was a bit puzzled, confused. He said, mufflers? I said, yes. I can find mufflers here, a muffler. He said, sorry, sir, but you are in the wrong store. In the wrong store. I'm in muffler. There's an auto shop or somewhere down the street. I
Yes.
was like, auto shop?
Oh.
And now I'm confused, this guy's confused. Then I was like, maybe he's getting something. So I said, this is like in it's pretty cold. I need something like, that the scarf what ladies wear.
Yes.
He said, oh, men's scarf. I said, yes. So he said, okay, over there. And then I got to know that muffler I mean, obviously India follow a lot of British language and nomenclature. So
Yes.
muffler means the men's scarf in the United States. So,
Ah. Okay. 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 Got it.
so that was one of my many stories, which still cracks me up uh, that this is how, I mean, different cultures. So yeah, that is one of my story about like how sometimes you have those challenges, obviously gallons and Fahrenheit, those
Yes.
unitary methods, which now I'm like all well versed, but back in the day it was pretty tough. And then yeah, I mean those are one of the stories I can recall and I can mention here.
Excellent. Well, let's keep moving forward then. Let's
Yes.
go to you. You went on this one pivotal journey, And, where's the next place after 2016, after the hike? You come back, you have gratitude in your heart, and never taking things for granted. I wonder, what's the next adversity or challenge that followed you on your path, Saurabh?
Definitely. So after that, obviously, one of the thing was from the physical side. I obviously then transformed to marathon running because at that time that was one of the things. So I started with
Wow.
uh, 10K and then half marathon, and then there was a big, and there is right now as well, a big community of runners and hikers in New Jersey that I'm still in touch with. So one of the coach mentioned that, Saurabh, you are running good. If you be more disciplined in your life, you can even do marathons as well. And just think about person who have run maybe only for the hikes and all, and
Yeah.
you are asking to run 26.2 miles or 42 kilometers. I was at that time, how come even a human being nonstop can run for more than 2 3 hours or 3 hours on this
Yeah.
looked so godly. But then I started working with the community, and then so that was then again I started building my own stories. Then it obviously 10 miles, 10 miles, 13 miles, 15 miles,
Wow.
20 miles, and then
Wow.
my first marathon was New Jersey Marathon in 2018,
Okay.
where I at that time my parents were there as well, and I was struggling after 21st mile. Somehow I completed. I was so exhausted, tired, surprised that I completed, and also emotional. And then I saw my mother standing over there at the finish
When did
line.
you see your mom? Did you see her before you got to the finish line?
No, just after the finish line, most of
After the
the
finish line?
visitors are there. Yeah. And they were visiting, and I saw my mom, and I just, right? I just hugged her and started crying. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
and all of my colleagues, they thought like I got hurt or something. They were like, "Sorry, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I just saw my mother. It was the first time. I was so exhausted, and my mother was also a bit of a taken aback that what happened if everything is okay, because they don't understand this marathon concept, why someone even run like that. So those are some of the fears. And one last thing, obviously I can go a bit if you have time, is
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
I
I'd
had
love to go back to mile
yes, yes, please.
21, because it
Yes,
was mile 2021 that you hit the wall of some kind. Because I
yes.
recently ran my first marathon in my life, the Charlotte
Oh,
City
wow.
Marathon in
Okay.
November 2023, and
Oh, wow.
46. I did some training, and I hit my wall at about mile 16.7, 17.1, somewhere in there. I calculated, and it was hard. Everything locked down. I had to literally
Yeah,
speed walk, or just walk with my
I
legs
understand.
pretty straight the rest of the way, kind of hobble back and forth from 9 miles. It was very challenging. What was your challenge like at mile 21?
So just to give some examples to the people who may not have run that much, is
Hmm.
when you get to that point, and obviously if it's your first marathon, or maybe those marathons where you are not well equipped with running so many marathons, it was feeling like a heavy iron rods have been stuck to your to your on your legs, and you cannot
Yeah.
even move, and everything's so jammed and stuck. And
Yeah.
I was literally feeling like the same feel if it could have been like maybe running on 8 minutes per mile. Now around 10 or 10 and a half or 11, I'm feeling the same feel. And on the top of that, everything is jammed. So eventually, at one point, I have to stop, stretch, remove whatever the lactic acid has been accumulated over. And then after that, I start running again slowly. And then actually, that is one of the most, and you can resonate as well now because you are running, that running fast and then slow is one of the most excruciating, because you are used to running a certain speed and then you slow down,
Yeah.
and on the top of that you are in pain. You have to continuously, and if you see anyone around those 20 plus miles who are struggling, you see a lot of people are talking to themselves, right? As if like,
Yeah. I was.
as a
Yeah.
mad person, right? Come on, you can do it. Yes, yes. You have trained so hard, you have done so much, it's just about a couple of miles. that is itself is a big experience. So yeah, a lot of emotions, a lot of things, but once you overcome, then you have a story to tell and you have more life lessons as well.
Dude, I'm with you, man. My wife and three daughters were there at the finish line. They were standing right in front of it, behind the barricade. And when I came around that corner and saw them, I started to tear up right away just seeing them, and it was worth it. The price of admission that I had to pay to be in that marathon was worth it. The moment that I saw them, 400 yards to go, that was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So yeah, okay. So that was 2018, your first marathon,
Mhm.
and well, bring us forward to now. What's something in your world right now, or since then in the last few years, it's been challenging for you, Saurabh?
So after that, actually, I did quite a few things again. As I think there was another
Okay.
saying, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right?
Heck yeah, baby.
So
Yeah.
the mindset which you carry from unrelated tasks can spill over to other tasks as well. So after this, I was becoming more confident, more risk taking, because I was like, now I have certain things which I've achieved personally, specifically from the physical side of the house. Then what I did, obviously in 2019 as well, I started investing in real estate, and because that was one of my things which I was working for a while, and I working on now I have like around 6 to 7 million worth of real estate under my portfolio. And then after that, once I started working on that, then obviously I started also working on my podcast. And around 2022, I started my podcast, which is also one of the best ways not only to have your thoughts out to the world, but also meeting such amazing people like you to have some conversations and keep your motivation. And I mean, sometimes in your life you sometimes pivot, right? Bring you
Yeah.
back to the track. Let's go again.
Hmm.
So yeah, those are some of the things which I have done, and yeah, up and
Well, hop
okay.
back to the real estate for a second. You said something like 6 or 7 million. Did 6 or 7 million what? Square feet in corporate real estate?
No,
I
no,
didn't catch
no,
that. What was
million
that?
dollar worth of portfolio. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
excellent. Okay, fantastic. So you're building a real estate portfolio and you started the podcast. So I guess why did you go into real estate? We'll start with real estate. Why did you go into real estate in the first place, Saurabh?
So it has a bit of a story, and I'll try to, because I have a lot of stories here.
Yeah.
So I started reading also around that after my hike. I started reading a lot, and one of the
Okay.
book which really transformed me, which is no wonder because a lot of people I heard has transformed their life, is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah. Yes,
And
sir. Mine too, man. Nice.
so that book, after reading that book, I couldn't sleep for a couple of days. I was like, what this guy is explaining the concept is totally out of the box. No one mentioned me that job and all those things, running business and how the world really work. My parents always mentioned that study hard and get a great job. No one said that become being curious, being creative, and start a business. And that way actually caused me a lot of sleepless night. Then I started working on reading a lot of books on real estate, but then I was into the stage of analysis paralysis, only reading, no execution. And the pivotal moment came around the starting of pandemic in
Okay.
2020, when I said, okay, enough. I asked one of my friend, I'll do all the legwork, all the work. Can you just be a 50% partner? And so that I'll also have at least psychologically someone who is a 50% risk taker, and we can invest in one of the residential property. And he said
Okay.
yes, and that was the history. It just first property, and after that I got the whole system. I got the, okay, this is how it works. As you know, the first step is the hardest. After that is just it's a snowball effect. So yeah.
The first step is the hardest. So after you took that first step, because I think this is so crucial. This is, in my opinion, also it's the hardest thing. You
Yes.
learn so much in that first step, that first time taking action. What I guess what light bulb went off? What happened when you finally stroked that first check with you and your partner and you invested? Take us through what happened in the next day, week, month, year. Just what was your growth process after you took that first step?
So, first step we took, obviously, we then found the right property,
Mm-hmm.
but we were still having a lot of cold feet, cross checking
Yeah.
whatever we discussed multiple times to make sure. And obviously, I have an additional pressure that I am also involving someone who is relying on my expertise because he is on a West Coast, and he said that you are investing local, so you know better than me. So I was like, I have to really make sure that this works. So I talked to a lot of people, and then after one, we closed that. Then the next thing is obviously you have to work on the tenants, finding the tenants, and all those things, which is the crucial thing. So I started, but again, one of the thing I would like to also add here is once you
Yes.
start something working diligently and earnestly, you see that eventually the thing starts working for you. When we start working on it, then I started asking people about if you have any property managers who can assist us. And then we got one, and they mentioned that they can assist, they can provide all the plan. So then I got to know who are the right people to involve. Then one thing leads to another. And once we have all the system in place, I was like, this wasn't that tough, actually. It's all in my mind. I have to take just one step at a time.
Mm.
And the thing is, most of the time, we try to think on 10th and 20th step and overcomplicate and then do nothing. So I would like one step at a time, and then we will figure out what would be the second step looks like. And yeah, and then I got comfortable, and then from one property to another, and then we just start working on that front.
Heck yeah. Okay. Great. Dear listeners, much wisdom here on this whole idea of just taking one step at a time.
Yes,
I mean, it doesn't
yes.
have to be more complex than that. One step at a time. Because I know some of us face that paralysis by analysis. I've faced it so many times, and the action cures it. I mean, one of my core values, Saurabh, I'm looking right behind the webcam here, up on the wall. I wrote this down on an index card and I pinned it here like a decade ago. It's still sitting right there. Massive action is the
Hmm.
best teacher. And I guess what's your comment on that value? Massive action is the best teacher. What does that mean to you?
Um, so first of all, that definitely resonates with me. And massive action is sometimes, even if you aren't aware of if the action is right or wrong, but you think that that may be one of the great steps to at least pursue and see that how exactly it turns out to be. That makes a big difference. And most of the time, and I would also advocate everyone is the more you read, like
Hmm.
books, the
Okay.
more you have stories around how people have overcome or taken some steps or met someone who triggered something XYZ, and now they are in this place, right? So the more you read, the more you join the dots when something happens in your life. Like if you say that, oh, you have to invest now without taking action, you know that nothing, no, I mean, you cannot go anywhere else out there. So take action. And I would always recommend people that don't go 100%. Obviously, you don't have to risk your life, family sufferings. Take those calculated risks to start a small one and
Yeah.
see that there should be a recourse, or if there is a loss, the exit strategy should not bring whatever you have earned in your life, so everything down, right? So just take baby steps, because those minutiae will help you to develop the overall strategy. So that is something I would say, based on what you said, that even if it's not massive action, small actions,
Mm-hmm.
but always toward the positive side. Just keep
Mm-hmm.
going on and see what comes in front of you.
What do you mean by that? Take action towards the positive side. Can you expand on
So
that a little bit?
yeah, so if you know, for example, everyone know, just a simple example, honesty is the best policy. We always mention, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of time we say that we do not, I mean, execute that. So if a person, and I'm just making up, is a chronic liar and he wants to uh, be honest. So what that person can do, that person can take small step and start speaking something true, which will not harm him in a way, but which will give him a taste of, see, this is how the truth looks like. And
Mm.
that will help that person to gain more confidence, because everyone learns. The true learning comes from your own life experiences. Book experiences is instrumental, but they will not give you that adrenaline rush or those perspectives which you will get from your own life experiences. So try things and then see what kind of flavor of the life you will get.
I love what you're sharing, and I'm real curious. I've been looking at this shirt for a while. What does this shirt mean to you? Because it says "Enjoy the ride."
Yes.
What does that shirt mean to you?
Well, that is, yeah, pure accidental that I'm wearing this today,
Yeah.
but enjoy the ride. Yeah. So I think it's all in your life, you have ups and downs. And once you start taking actions, as we started off, it will be a life of ups and downs, right? And when we
Hmm.
have, that's where the story is also being made. So, for example, when I go to some of these some of these gatherings, right? I have so many stories to tell people. And some people say, Saurabh, we don't have many stories. I said, you can. The first thing is try few things, new things, what you're passionate about, and be aware of your surroundings and see how the things been happening in your own world. Then you will see so many stories comes out of your own life, instead of trying to fit into someone else's life and see that their story is better than mine.
Hmm. Well, so you just said something so profound and yet so simple that everyone out there, I don't want everyone to gloss over this and its importance, that the stories in our life are made up when we try things and when we're really aware of our surroundings. Just take a moment and pause and just be really hyper aware of the surroundings that are around you. And I would equate that to just practicing being present. And when you're present, you can really see the magical things that are happening all around us right now. Like, I've been wanting to ask you for an hour now. I look behind you, I see this amazing guitar back there, and there's a light shining on it. And we've been talking about, overcoming challenges and gratitude and exercise and real estate. And then we're about to get to your podcast in a second. But what is the significance of this guitar? I'm sure there's a magical memory around that.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, music is one of my gateway to be myself,
Mhm.
and also obviously just coming out of all the hustles and bustles of life. Music came obviously through from my mother. She is also a singer, and we have a Indian instrument called dholak. It's kind of
Okay.
a family of drums. So that she plays, and I got through her. And I was obviously the same friends who were talking about the hike. They were part of my college band as well. So we were in a college band, and I got the true sense of music in the college all my
What was
life.
your band name back in the day?
So my band name was Illuminati back in the day.
Did you
So
just say Illuminati?
yes.
The Illumi. You were the Ladies
No,
and
but I
gentlemen.
don't know if that is the same band, because that was in India. So there may be a
Nice.
multiple version. So I don't know. So that was the name which we have back in the, and that is itself gave me a lot of perspective. And this is also, I would like to give you an example of decision making.
Okay.
And maybe in short, because that is a long story, but I moved from New Jersey to Orlando out of nothing. I mean, there was no job opportunities. It's just like we would like to experience some warm weather. And we
Okay.
would, I have a bit of a real estate here. And I was like, I was sick of snow. I was like, this is, everyone has some inflection points in life. So one of my inflection point was like whenever I try to use the snowblower, I was like, I don't like this. Why
Yeah.
exactly I'm doing this, right? So that helps me to take some decisions. At the same time, my green card or permanent residency also came because I was working. That itself is a long story. I recently put it on LinkedIn about how I got my permanent residency. Uh, so once I got that, we moved here. And where I'm coming from is I moved here and I got to know that there's a band who was looking for a guitarist.
Okay.
And
Okay.
all my 10 years in around 9, 10 years in New Jersey, I never had a band. I was just playing with our gatherings, friends and family,
Okay.
right? Just the regular stuff. But then they were looking for a guitarist. My wife was instrumental. She asked me that, why don't you join them? I said, are you sure? Because that's a commitment. She said, just try and see that how it works out. And everything falls in place. Now we are not only jamming, but we are also playing professionally or on different. Obviously, it's an Indian band, so we just do all the Indian languages, songs, and jamming. But because there is a big Indian diaspora here in Florida as well and elsewhere,
Hmm.
so we always get gigs to work on it. So as you can see, that how one decision can lead to this. Now we have a good warm weather. I drop my kids to school, which is just a mile through bike,
Nice.
and then come back and do all those stuff. So for God's grace, everything is working fine. But I just give you the point that taking decisions, some universe will try to make it work if you have all the right intentions and earnest uh, way of doing things. So that's what
Yes.
my guitar and all music is all about. Uh,
Fantastic.
it's a long answer to your short question.
Well, I say that all the time, by the way, a long answer to a short question. And I appreciate your level of detail. I'm a detail person, so love it. And let's go to how we can find out more about you. So if you could talk a little bit about your podcast, I'd love to know where can we find it and why would we want to turn into your podcast? What are we going to be listening to?
Definitely. So my podcast is right now on YouTube and Spotify, which is
Okay.
called Let's Talk, which is Let's and TOK Talk. Let's Talk podcast. I'm very much frequent on LinkedIn. I have Instagram account as well, and Facebook, but LinkedIn professionally, I spend a lot of time on that, which is under my name. I have a Let's Talk podcast page as well. My podcast is
Nice.
all about just the way what you are doing a great thing, bringing right personalities, talking about their success stories, what makes them what they believe in. So my philosophy of the podcast is not providing the solution, but giving the direction. Because
Okay.
solution is very easy to give, advice is very easy to give, but if you provide a direction and people find their own solution, that is one of the best epiphany you can get and realization, because you get your own answer. So we provide conversations which helps to provide direction in all the different ways, from healthcare to technology to ADHD. We had those things. So because we are living under the sun, and we should discuss everything which is under the sun. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that
I'm
is the
looking at it
whole
right now on
philosophy.
Spotify. Let's talk TOK. Let's talk podcast. You've been doing
Yes.
it now for a couple of years. So this is your 2 year anniversary. It looks like.
Yes,
Yeah.
in around March, we had the 2 years anniversary. Right now, I'm doing a lot of things by myself. So it is
Mhm.
still coming up, but it's not coming up the way as I expected. I have to do a lot of work, but with my full time job, I'm still okay with what I'm doing, because it always gives me a self satisfaction
Mm,
and talking to the people. So that is, and I do not want to forget why I started for the first place, is to have a quality conversation and learning on bi-directional learning. So if that is happening, that's what I would like to pursue.
fantastic. Well, so we can find Let's Talk Podcast again, TOK. Let's Talk
Yes.
Podcast on Spotify. I'm looking at it right now, and there are many episodes. There's so many different people you can learn from here on these episodes. So many episodes. Oh, I see our friend Rena in there.
Yes, yes.
Episode 49. Yeah, super cool.
Oh, yes.
Good.
We have around 65 or 66 episodes, to be
Yes.
precise. Yeah.
Well, is there any other place that we might go to connect with you on social media or anywhere else? Saurabh?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is one of the best places for professionals. But if you are not, then you can go to Instagram. And Instagram, I have a handle called, and this is a Hindi word. Uh, so I'll maybe tap in over there, but it's called Bataiye, which means let's talk in a sense in Hindi. So
Okay,
this
okay.
is
I'm looking
the
for that right.
handle
How
I
do you
just
spell
pinged
that? I'm
you.
going to type it in right now. How do you spell that?
Yeah, it's B as in boy, A as in alpha, T as in tango, A as in alpha, I as in Indiana, Y as in Yankee, E as in echo.
Got it. Oh, I see it. I see it. And now I am following. Excellent.
Thank you so
I am
much.
following. Oh, I see you here in the marathon. The lead picture here is in the marathon. All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And it looks like you've been on a bunch of shows here too. All right. Wow. And they got you playing your guitar, got you singing in here. There's all kinds of stuff on this
Oh
Instagram. This is
yeah. So
cool.
I'm both vocalist and guitarist, rhythm guitarist and vocalist. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Sarah, this has been excellent. I've got a couple last questions for you here, lightning round, to wrap things up today.
Yes.
And just to pick your brain, and this may be the hardest question ever. I'm going to ask you to give me one book, just one book. You've already shared Rich Dad Poor Dad, but one book that's had an impact on you and your life that you'd recommend. What might be one book you could recommend to us?
So the one book I can say is, let me just make sure that I can have the right answer on this, because that book is, yeah, so that is the book called The Wealthy Gardener.
Huh.
Have you read
Interesting.
that?
You're the second person that has mentioned this book,
Okay.
but I've not read it yet.
Amazing. So this is about life lessons of life and the prosperity between the father and son. And it's a semi fictional. I mean, normally I'm a non-fictional guy, fiction guy, but this is amazing way of storytelling and providing why you think and take life in a certain way that I have already read like 6, 7 times, and have an audible version as well. So I always recommend for anyone who wants to understand life and maybe try to give a legacy to their offsprings as well, to make sure that they also lead a very purposeful, fulfilling life, and not obviously like people say wealthy life. Obviously, wealth comes and goes, but fulfillment is one of the best things. So yeah, that is the answer. The Wealthy Gardener.
And who's the author on that?
John Soforic.
Okay.
And if you just type The Wealthy Gardener, or anyone who is listening or viewing this, they can find, because that is only one book with this name.
Thank you. Okay, got it. So we got The Wealthy Gardener here of John Soforic.
So
I'm looking at it right now.
Tough
It's right.
question answered somehow.
Yeah, well, it's tough when you ask someone who's an avid reader, what's one book? So thank you for giving us that. I'd ask you this, and I'd like to offer you the last word here. So you're on the Eternal Optimist podcast. So when I say eternal optimist, what does that mean to you, Saurabh?
Eternal optimist, I would say, is obviously, I can go on a monologue, but you have to look on the brighter side of your life. Anything happens, you have to be optimistic. Why? Because when you proceed in your life and you see in the hindsight, most of the time, if you have seen yourself or the people, must be saying, I think it happened for the best. Oh, I'm glad it happened. At that time, I was thinking worse, but I'm glad it happened because XYZ thing happened in my life. So everything goes for the best in your life. Don't dwell on your negative stuff for a long time. Be optimistic. And I love the name of your podcast, Eternal Optimism and Optimist, because the more your optimism you have, not only it impacts your life, impacts the way you think, your body responds. There are studies which shows that if you are a positive thinker, A lot of diseases will come and just go, and you don't even know about it. And it impacts the life around the people who are around you, because when you're optimistic, people say, yes, we can do it. But if you are pessimist, then you know how it happens. The negative energy drains you down much faster, I would say 2 or 3 times, versus the positive energy. So that is, again, I succumb to the long answer, but eternal optimist, amazing name. This is something which I would like to live my life through as well. The same phrase.